the bases dropped from Fifth Third Bank Stadium in Kennesaw, Georgia. Soccer Down Here pregame show ahead of the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal. Atlanta United hosting St. Louis FC. Big night around the Open Cup quarterfinals get started. 4 matches. We'll get you set for all of them. We'll especially get you set for what's about to happen here in Kennesaw. Lineups should be coming in about 13 minutes from now or so, and just from the look of it, it is a very first-choice lineup for Atlanta United. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you. If you guys have questions out there throughout the show, tweet at us at Soccer Down Here, at Longshoe, at OSG Nelson, and we will try to answer them as best we can. Mike Conti from 92.9 The Game will join us at about 6:45 once the lineup is out to get his thoughts, because that was a big talking point we had today on SDH and today on Stoppage Time. What kind of lineup is Frank DeBoer going to field, and what does that mean for Atlanta's trip to Seattle this weekend? And then Houston next week, and then D.C. next week at the Benz. It's a crowded schedule for Atlanta.
So you're saying it's a crowded schedule for Atlanta?
Yes, that's what I just said.
I'm looking forward to seeing what this lineup is, and we had pretty much said in this most closest to us is the word I'm looking for, this run of, say, the next 4. And Mike was with us this morning on the show, and he was saying that really, the Seattle one, I think, is if you were to rank 1, 2, 3, 4, Seattle would probably be 4.
That's what I said, yeah.
And so I would say that. And so looking at this one, and D.C., and Houston, and then everything else at the end of the month, this one, first things first, get through this, and then whatever happens. You know you're not going to have some folks in Seattle. But right now, you're only a couple of wins away from getting back into CONCACAF Champions League, and you really want to get there at the same time, take care of the guys that you have with schedule compression. So there are a lot of things at play here for Frank DeBoer tonight, and first and foremost is getting out of Fifth Third Bank Stadium, advancing to the next stage.
Yeah, I think this match is as important as Houston and D.C. at home next week for Atlanta United. This is a chance to win a trophy. You're 3 games away. You get a good draw where you have a USL championship team coming in. You don't take them lightly, but it is a little bit different type of opponent. It's a game that Atlanta United should be able to dictate the terms of. Let's get into a couple things about today as a whole. You've got matches that will be kicking off, 3 of them all around the same time. New York City and Orlando, Minnesota and New Mexico are your early matches tonight, along with this one. And then out west, LAFC and Portland. Your USL Championship teams, there's 2 left, and there are expected to be 125 St. Louis FC supporters here tonight at Fifth Third Bank Stadium, 188 New Mexico United supporters on a charter plane to St. Paul, Minnesota.
That's too cool.
For both, that is very cool to have this level of traveling support in the Open Cup.
And I made the point this morning about New Mexico United and how the ownership group has stepped up yet again when it comes to making sure that everything is out there for New Mexico United fans and making it accessible with everything going on at the lab and all the successes that they're having on the field and off the field this season, to be able to pull up a charter instantaneously. And I want to say within like 28 seconds, the thing sold out. It was that quick. Not necessarily literally, but for New Mexico United to grab that charter, to go to Allianz Field, for St. Louis FC to have fans here tonight, it's where cool factor is very high, especially with these 2 matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a report from the supporter section already. Daniel Price says it is hot. He asked why we weren't broadcasting from outside, because we don't have to. We are in air-conditioned environs right now, and it is very nice.
So in a commercial break, I guess I should go out and wave at Daniel Price?
No, sorry, Daniel, not waving.
Okay.
We're going to try to stay cool as long as we can. It is a little warm here in Kennesaw.
It's just thick.
It's a little muggy as well. Yes, there is some of that.
Hashtag oven roasted from Daniel Price, by the way.
Yes.
It is a rotisserie.
It is something.
Uh-huh.
We will be getting a lineup rather soon. Usually it's an hour before kick. And when the team came out, there were a lot of first-choice players in the group that came out. This will be a group tonight they are in the Five Stripes kit, I believe. This will be a group that will look like it would for a regular MLS match, and I'm not really surprised by that.
No. It is TCB. The only thing missing around Frank de Boer's neck is the old Elvis chain with the TCB and the lightning bolt. I mean, it is take care of business tonight. And they're going up against a team. When Anthony Pulis was asked about it in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, quote, and this is verbatim what he said, we're up against a very skilled and experienced side, banged-up squad with only 13 healthy field players coming in. Pulis continues, he says, not only that, a very important league game Saturday in Charlotte with both teams right around the playoff bar. On the north end right now is St. Louis FC, Charlotte 1 point behind. So this week, they limit themselves in practice, focusing on chalk talk and figuring out what to do tactically for the next week, not just tonight, but Charlotte as well. So it's a lot of work indoors for Anthony Pulis and St. Louis FC.
It's a tricky situation for St. Louis because they have struggled in league play since the beginning of April. And they've fallen down the table a bit. Top 10 in the USL Eastern Conference get into the postseason, and right now St. Louis is in that 10 spot. They're 1 point ahead of Charlotte. They're 2 points ahead of Bethlehem Steel. This is the biggest game they're going to have this season, though. So even not at full strength, it feels like Anthony Pulis has to go for it here.
Yeah, and remember, though, going for it for St. Louis FC stylistically is not what you would normally picture in your brain of going for it. It is going to be playing direct. It is going to be what St. Louis FC does. They're not going to go out of character to advance. They're going to do their thing. And
they're not going to rest players is the point here, because they're going for it is relying on a goalkeeper in Finlayson and two center backs in Sam Fink and Kavita, who are among the best in the USL Championship.
And we've seen them this year, and we know what they have been able to do out there on the pitch at Fifth Third, taking a win against Atlanta United too. And when you look at what we've seen with them, there are guys in the discussion that we've had. It's Kyle Gregg, it's Lewis Hilton, it's Russell Cicerone, it's Sam Fink. And you mentioned Kavita as a part of this as well. You're going to hear those guys a lot when Poppy Miller, Charlie Davies call the match tonight on ESPN+, or if you're here in the building watching this match. Those are the guys that you would have your spot shadow on, especially if you remember them from going up against Atlanta United 2 earlier this year.
Yeah, it was a 2-0 win for St. Louis FC back on April 6th here at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. 2 first-half goals, Sam Fink in the 9th from the penalty spot on a questionable decision.
Yeah.
Russell Cicerone in the 20th minute was the second goal, and they were able to see that out. Control the game fairly well. They did concede 21 shots there, but only 4 on target. They gave up 66% of the ball. I think it's going to look like those kind of numbers, and those are fairly typical numbers for St. Louis. You look back at their match from the weekend at home against Loudoun United, who has started to find their footing a bit after a rough start in USL Championship. Loudoun took a 2-0 lead with goals on either side at halftime, and it took Kyle Gregg in the 57th, Russell Cicerone in the 73rd to bring them back. But your numbers there, it was 46% of the possession for St. Louis. They had 3 shots on target, the 2 goals, 1 other one, 11 shots total. They're not a team that's going to want a lot of the ball. They're not a team that tries to build around that. They're a team that generally plays 2 lines of 4, 2 big targets up top, and they play direct.
You look at what St. Louis FC has done in Open Cup. You go back a step, back to June 19th. You mentioned one of the names getting the goal in stoppage time, Sam Fink, advancing the team against FC Cincinnati at WWT. Then before that, and this hasn't been a chopped liver schedule that St. Louis FC has had to get to this point. They've knocked off some big folks.
They knocked off Cincinnati.
Yeah,
that's a questionable rating of big folks. They knocked off
division,
Chicago.
How about that?
Yeah, I mean you have to at this point to get here. They knocked off Chicago. Chicago fell down 2-0 in that game. They made a game of it with one late. I believe it was Katai who had it, and they weren't able to come back. That was on the football lines.
Oh, at Lindenwood.
At Lindenwood, and it was a little tricky to follow. Frank DeBoer watched that one for scouting purposes, and his eyes might have been rolling around in his head a little bit.
Daniel Price with yet another question as he's listening to us live.
Okay.
He wants to know which god he prays to and what sacrifice does it take to invoke cloud cover minus bad weather.
I don't think he's going to get any luck with any of that. I think he is just completely out of luck today. Sorry.
I think probably the god that he needs to pray to is Hydratus.
I guess. Do you want to explain that? Because I have no idea.
I'm just trying to make one up out of staying hydrated.
That's what I figured.
Trying to figure out whoever the god of staying hydrated is. Maybe it's dihydrogen oxide. I don't know. But however you stay hydrated. Oh, and make sure. Sunscreen. People bring sunscreen.
Yes.
SPF 50 or higher. And much like Jason here this evening, if you've got a chapeau, bring it.
Yes.
Light clothing, perhaps a change of clothing as well, but sunscreen.
Got about an hour till kickoff. It's going to be an interesting one because Open Cup games usually are.
Yes.
Look, these things can get weird at times, and you kind of just have to expect the unexpected. Hopefully, one of the things that is not expected tonight is a lightning delay, which is something that we have seen many times.
Why do you mention
here at Fifth
this?
Third Bank? I'm trying to get out in front of it so it will leave. Because when you do the whole thing, like, oh, I'm not going to talk about it, so it doesn't happen, it happens. Anything can happen, including lightning delays.
So sportscaster jinx, by your saying you're hoping we don't have weather, by announcing it ahead of time, you're hoping sportscaster jinx is nullified.
Yeah, because when you don't talk about it, it happens. Just expect craziness. That's where you're at. Just expect craziness. It's the Open Cup. It's the magic of the cup. One person that needs to bring some magic tonight, if he is in the team, is Brandon Vasquez.
Excellent transition. Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez.
I try. Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez. 6 goals. He is the all-time leader for Atlanta United in the U.S. Open Cup. I don't think he's the all-time leader for Atlanta players in the Open Cup. I think I actually have that tallied, and I can pull it up here in a minute when we take a break.
Massive database.
Warren Oka had 5 in a game for the Silverbacks against Azuri FC. And I don't know if he had others, but that's one of those crazy records. It was a game that had a lightning delay at Silverbacks Park. And it was an amateur team that came into play on a Tuesday night from Dallas, and they gave up a couple goals early. Then they had to wait for about 45 minutes. And they came back out kind of for the rest of the match, but I think they might have left their hearts in the locker room, and it got out of hand. I think it was a 10-0 final.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest lopsided scores in the modern era of the Open Cup. And something we were talking about earlier, this is a tournament that has grown substantially in the last few years. When you look back at the history of it, and it is the oldest trophy in American soccer, it started out with a lot of professional teams in it from the old American Soccer League. And then when the ASL went away and kind of downsized, it became a tournament with a lot of amateur teams, some semi-pro level teams. But the North American Soccer League teams of the 60s and 70s and into the 80s did not participate.
Right.
You had a few APSL and Western Soccer Alliance teams and stuff like that would play, but it was real hit or miss. And it was 95, the year before MLS, when the A-League, the APSL, entered the tournament. It became what it is now. That was one where the Richmond Kickers won the tournament as an amateur team that year. The Atlanta Ruckus played in that one. They lost to Richmond along the way. I believe it was the round of 16, not the quarterfinal. For Atlanta teams, the quarterfinal has been the latest they've been in the tournament ever in the modern era. And it was the Atlanta Silverbacks in 2014 that got to this stage. They lost at Silverbacks Park to the Chicago Fire. Pretty close match, actually, and that was after Atlanta had knocked off 2 MLS teams. That's where St. Louis is coming into this. They've knocked off a couple. They have that belief that they can play with MLS-level opposition. They have players that are very experienced. It's not a young, inexperienced team. What are the keys for you when you look at St. Louis coming into this tonight?
like Kyle Gregg said, it's a big opportunity for us going in as underdogs. They know this going in. They don't seem to be intimidated by their surroundings. And I think that when you're coming into a situation like this and you know going in that you're going to have the 125 and that's it, and folks who are watching on a stream on ESPN Plus, the fact that you go in, do your thing, you've already knocked off 2 MLS sides to this point. Chicago and Cincinnati, yes, I know, but nevertheless, you've still knocked off 2 MLS sides to get here. You've proven that if you can dictate and take advantage of the situations that you know you're strongest in, then for me, that's where St. Louis is like, all right, we're in our wheelhouse. It's comfort zone wheelhouse, whatever cliche you want when it comes to being able to do whatever you want to do. And I think that it's just, really, if you want to say it's just staying the course and making sure that you know what you're getting into, great. You're not going to be intimidated by it, fine. We're going to do our things. And if we get that set piece where Sam Fink can go airborne and put it past the keeper, then that's where you're going to get your marks tonight. And I think that they probably will get one, and that's why I said it was going to be a 2-1 final.
Yeah, my pick was 3-1 without seeing the lineups because I do think Atlanta will take it very seriously, and I think they will get that match control back that we've been talking about here in recent weeks. St. Louis is going to concede some of that, and I think when Atlanta is in control of a match, they're just such a stronger team. Some of these defensive issues that we've seen pop up here recently have been when the game gets stretched, and when they're able to control things, they limit the chances for the opposition. Montreal was that because Montreal conceded the control of the match. And I think St. Louis is going to have to do that because they're going to have to sit back and get numbers behind the ball and defend deep. That's who they are, and I think they're comfortable doing it, but I think that really does play into Atlanta's strengths.
Anthony Pulis said that this has been a strange run for them, considering that they came out of the blocks toward the top of the Eastern Conference and USL Championship. And from there, they start 5-1-2. They've gone 0-3-4 since. And when you combine this Open Cup run, Pulis said it's been strange. He admits they should have won their last three league matches, but they are where they are right now. They've made some defensive mistakes. Obviously, you want to quell that tonight. And they've created good chances. And as Pulis has said, they haven't had a lot of luck in the offensive end. And, of course, that's how the football gods are for you sometimes. I think it's finishing your chances, and there won't be any kind of intimidation factor here at all tonight. You just wonder that if Atlanta United gets that early goal, how does St. Louis FC respond? I think that, to me, is the question. How far out of that comfort zone do they go? Do they continue to maintain who they are? And for how long do they do that before Anthony Pulis starts to do other things?
I think they maintain who they are. I think this is a team that won't be shaken by conceding. It's a veteran team. It's not like a lot of USL Championship teams with a lot of younger players who haven't been in these situations. You've got players who have been in the Open Cup before. You've got players who have played Major League Soccer teams. You've got players who have been part of Major League Soccer teams. They're not going to be, just falling apart in this match. Now, I think they're going to be going up against a level of talent that they haven't seen in this tournament yet. And I think they're going to be going up against a team that on its day is better than any team they've seen this season. But they're a group that, can handle this. And I think part of that comes down to Pulis and his nature.
You look at St. Louis FC and counting the players over the 25 or older, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players the age 25 or older when it comes to St. Louis FC in this lineup. So they know what it's like to be in situations like this, regardless of competition, whichever one it's been, but they know what nights like this are like.
Yeah, that's big in an Open Cup situation because, you're at the point now where you are a minimum of 270 minutes away from lifting a trophy, and it can happen. It's been a while since a lower division team has won this thing. It was 1999, the Rochester Raging Rhinos. They were still raging at that time.
Rhinos.
They were able to win the final in Columbus in that year. The Charleston Battery made it in 2008 to the final and lost to DC United. It can happen. St. Louis is a team that is kind of the classic, like Dragon Slayer when it comes to cup-style football because they're a smart defensive team. And I think generally teams that are steady defensively are the ones who can make these runs in the tournament if you're a lower division team. For New Mexico, that's why it's been so surprising for them, is they're not necessarily a great defensive team. They're very explosive, and they've been able to just ride that emotion.
And I think that lack of fear and knowing who you are comes in different ways. For St. Louis, it's who they are and what we're going to be seeing tonight at Fifth Third. When it comes to New Mexico, they are who they are, and if they turn it into FIFA 19, they're more than happy with that because that's their personality.
That's probably what it's going to be. If you've watched Minnesota lately, that's about the way Minnesota is most comfortable as well. They're not a great defensive team.
And I don't think, they could empty out the change in all of their pockets collectively in the locker room, throw it on the floor. They don't care. They'll just put it all out there and throw it to the center of the table. Poker. It's a poker reference.
Okay. I don't play poker for
empty
tennis,
out their wallets, throw to the center of the table. They're all in.
Yeah, well, New Mexico's got to be. I mean, that's the thing is you got a charter flight of fans coming to see you. That's motivation. It's kind of easy to scoff at that stuff. You think professional athletes don't notice it or don't really care. I think at the USL Championship level, that's incredibly meaningful, and that's going to be a huge source of pride and motivation for New Mexico tonight. New York City and Orlando is an intriguing match because of the situation NYCFC is in. They've got the Hudson River Derby coming up this weekend.
Yep.
It's not what Atlanta has coming up with a trip across the country in a game that is very tricky because you have to come back and have home matches right after it. It's the Derby. It's the big match against your big rivals, and you're banged up. Mitrich is out. Hebert didn't play. You're down to 16 guys on the bench
some with
over
very
the
high
weekend.
Numbers on their backs.
Yeah, it's some guys that haven't had to see the field in these moments. You get an Orlando team that, on paper, New York City's the better team with a full roster. But in a game like this, how much can NYC truly go for it? I mean, they don't really have a lot of options to not go for it. They just have to field a team.
Yeah, and I'm trying to dig up what the juice box purveyors said and see if that has changed since the morning. And the number that we had, I want to say it was minus 155 early on for Orlando City to win in regulation. Mm-hmm. I think that was the number. So when that gets dialed up, we'll take a peek and see if these juice box numbers
we have
changed.
a lineup for New York City, and it is Stuver in goal, not a surprise, rotating at goalkeeper. Backline of Ibiaga, Chanot, Sweat, Torres and Matarrita. Could be a line of 5, could be 4 with Matarrita on the opposite side. Torres as a holding midfielder. Ofori and Ring in the central midfield. Up top, Hebert does return. Maxi Morales is in the lineup. Jesus Medina. On the bench is Tinnerholm, who I believe took a knock on the weekend.
Right.
Alexander Callens, Bedoya, Hack, Keaton Parks, and Castellanos.
Tati Castellanos has been on fire as of late offensively.
Getting Hebert back is big for them.
Yes.
That's a pretty strong lineup. Defensively, there's a couple questions. It's Ibiaga and Chanot, and I want to see how it works out around them. If Sweat's playing as a center back or Sweat's playing out wide and Matarrita's playing out wide with him on the opposite side because both are left-sided. So be curious to see how that plays out. But NYC with a fairly strong lineup, I just don't think they really had any choices.
No, and I think for letting all of that ride. Like I said, when Orlando comes out with theirs, I think we can compare and contrast and see what that looks like as well. So minus 155 might have gotten a little closer to not quite plus 100, but I'm sure that minus 155 probably ends up a little closer to the mean by the time we get to kick.
Yeah, it could be. Orlando is going to go for this. In MLS news, Sasha Kleshin will be suspended for another game after his tackle. It was on Orlando, or not on Orlando, sorry, on Philadelphia, on Montero from behind. It was pretty nasty. Kleshin was very apologetic afterwards.
Yes.
I think he knew immediately, I really messed this up.
Uh-huh.
But it was a nasty tackle, and he gets an extra game. It doesn't affect him tonight.
No.
Because MLS suspensions and Open Cup suspensions, two different worlds.
So, I want to see how that ends up with envelopes and things like that, but that's a part of the process, but that doesn't take care of what else is going on tonight. With the other matches, what else sticks out with the other four that are or the other three that are on the four?
Well, we're already seeing St. Louis fans pull a Timbers Army situation about drums and such, and
they brought.
Yes, and that's not how it was supposed to work, because there were supposed to be a list of items that were submitted, and oh boy, it's a different world between USL Championship and MLS, and what is allowed in stadiums and what isn't, and how things have to be pre-approved. And I think some fan bases are learning the hard way and how that works.
No doubt. So I think that's. You know that there are going to be these moments like this.
Drama.
Yes.
We do have a lineup from Orlando.
Okay.
And it is in goal, Grinwis. Back line, Smith, Janssen, Sané, Wuan. Central midfield, Kleshin, Johnson, Mendez. And up front, Nani, Akindele, and Mueller. On the bench, Dwyer, Benji Michel, Patino, Dylan Powers, Uri Rossell, and Dijon in center back depth, and Brian Rowe is on the bench in goal. So that's pretty much first choice for Orlando. Dwyer has not necessarily been first choice this season. That would be maybe the biggest change.
We have a question from Ricky Ricardo having to do with lineup.
Okay.
And we could probably ask Mike Conti this when he hops on as well. But Ricky wants to know, how can Emerson Hyndman be best used tonight?
I'm curious to see, because I think it depends on who's around him. I would love to see him at some point as the 6. I think he can be that deep-lying playmaker kind of 6 that would give this team a different look. I don't know if he slots into that straight away. If he's with Eric Remedi could be the one who sits a little bit more, although we know that Remedi is going to go chase things. That's what he does. He's kind of that ball hawk that you need at times. Then how does Hyndman adjust to that? Does he then drop and cover? How does he get those rotations quickly? Those are going to be the moments that we'll be watching Emerson Hyndman tonight. You want to see him on the ball a lot is the big thing. I think his strength is on the ball. And if you get into a midfield situation at some point this season with Hyndman and Nagbe together, you've got 2 dominant central midfielders on the ball who can make things happen. I really love the acquisition of Hyndman. I just wonder how long it's going to take him to hit the ground running. As Doug Robertson told us this morning, he hasn't started a game since December.
Yeah. And you wonder about rust and then in-game rust, which to me are 2 different things. You have, and then also being the new kid in school and trying to figure out how you're going to integrate with everybody and all these different pieces. So I anticipate early on the relationships in the little societies, I think, are going to, when we see the societies, as we see Brad Gazan and the keepers come to the floor, as everybody
looks like it will be Brad in goal.
Yes, from what we can hear through the glass for those who are outside.
Well, we have the door shut intentionally
Yes.
because we're trying to stay as cool as we can for as long as we can.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've got the opportunity. We're going to do it.
Yes. So I think that I want to see the little societies. I want to see how long they take. And in addition to everything else, when it comes to Emerson Hyndman being out there for the first time in a kit, what it's going to take for him, and who are those relationships and societies that he hooks up with the fastest, and are those ones that are just there, or are they developed through practice plus tonight, or is it just something that's happened tonight through natural ability?
It's a challenging spot for Emerson Hyndman to drop straight into a competitive match like this, but this is a player with a very strong pedigree. When he went to Fulham at 18, a lot of people had such high hopes for him. And 2015 U20 World Cup, he made all-tournament teams from quite a few different outlets. Fulham was relegated. It kind of threw his career into flux. He goes to Bournemouth, which was the wrong choice because there wasn't really a spot for him. Goes on loan to Rangers and has a good time there. Goes on loan to Hibs and was solid, not spectacular. And it's just been tough to break in at Bournemouth. This is an opportunity for him. One, I think it's an opportunity for him for a long-term stay. I don't think this is intended to necessarily be a short-term stay, but I think it's an opportunity to kind of re-energize his career a bit.
And I don't think that Atlanta United would have sent all the resources to Dallas to make this happen, and we do have a lineup for St. Louis FC.
All right, bring it.
I was going to say, I imagine yours is faster than mine, and this is in no formation whatsoever, so we'll see how it looks. And first and foremost, it is a 5-person bench for St. Louis FC tonight. We were wondering how deep the bench was going to be, so it's only 11
You don't have
5.
a lot of healthy guys, so St. Louis, it's not by choice to travel like this. This is what they had available. In
net, Tomas Gomez, not Jake Fenlison.
That's surprising. Okay.
And you have...
Backline, Matt Boehner, Sam Fink, Kavita. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming Sean Reynolds. Then Kadeem Dakris, Lewis Hilton, Oscar Omar, Paris G., who could be in the backline. And up top, Kyle Gregg, Russell Cicerone. It feels a little bit more like a 5-4-1 or a 4-5-1, depending on how the pieces are arranged a bit. So very defensive.
Yes.
On the bench, you have Camden Fawo, who we liked when we saw him earlier this season.
Yep.
You have Caleb Calvert, who was with the Colorado Rapids, has been with the Charlotte Independents quite a bit. Another good forward option. You have Abendon Jepson on the bench as well. This is a very defensive tact that Anthony Pulis has taken.
And at the same time, Pulis's previous discussions and sound bites about being just as prepared, knowing Charlotte's around the corner, Gomez in net as opposed to Fenlison. Yes, it's a surprise. Perhaps that's part of the thinking, but I would have thought that in this situation you put Jake Fenlison out there, considering that he started 13 of your 15 matches in USL Championship this year.
Yeah, I think goalkeepers can handle those situations. I'm really surprised by that one. Maybe Fenlison's got a little bit of a knock. We'll have to see. Atlanta United's out to warm up now, and just looking very quickly, Pity Martinez, Joseph Martinez, Julian Gressel, all dressed out. Darlington Nagby, Leandro Gonzalez Perez, Eric Remetti. Some of the concerns or questions about what the lineup would look like. It as first choice as it can get with Emerson Hindman in the mix now.
You see Breck Shea is out there. Dion Pereira looks like he's out there as well. So this is right out there. And Daniel Price with an update. He says we're weak. He only has moderate heat stroke.
Yeah, we're going to stay away from that. Ricky Ricardo, we appreciate the support, Ricky. Ricky says, went into the scarf vault to figure out what to bring to the game. Kind of hot, but whatever. And I decided on my 92.9 The Game scarf to support Longshoe and Mike Conti. I hope we make it to the final, and I hope ESPN will reconsider letting y'all call it. Hey, we are looking right now on the TV, and Poppy Miller and Charlie Davies are getting ready to call it for ESPN+. I wish we had the chance to call it. I love the Open Cup. I love everything about this tournament, but I understand rights fees. I get it with ESPN. They have taken the tournament to another level this season. And at this round now to send commentators out on site, and they will have a sideline reporter as well tonight, and Tyler Terrence. It's really good to see the overall investment. I do hope that in the future, obviously as a radio person, that radio will be included in it, because I think it will supplement the coverage and not take away.
Right, and when you have presence, and then there's local presence and local flavor, I think it is something that, with the way things are currently structured, you don't get the local flavor. And I think it's a missing element in all of this that I hope can be readdressed at some point, because there are a lot of teams who have great radio presence across the board, regardless of level. And I think it's just something that it's a bit of a black hole right now when it comes to coverage of the tournament.
Something else that's a black hole right now is we're waiting on the Atlanta United lineup to come out officially. Yes. So it has not as of yet. You're operating on some different timelines in the Open Cup. Doesn't look like there's really any major surprises from a new face outside of Emerson Heineman. There was some speculation that you would see some Atlanta United 2 players or just some of the fringe players on the first-team roster like a Gordon Wild, and they do not appear to be part of this group.
Looking at juice box purveyors, Atlanta United's number to win outright is still pretty large in comparison to St. Louis FC. The margin from Orlando City and NYCFC has closed a little bit. It's not quite the minus 150 to plus 110 that we saw earlier. Minnesota United is still, I believe they were at a minus 334 coming into Minnesota United was a minus 334. That one's still a wide margin. And then the one that you were looking at with LAFC and Portland was starting out at a plus 800 to win in the 90-minute time frame.
That just feels bizarre to me. I don't get that one at all. If I had juice boxes, I would be thinking about juice boxes. All right, we have a lineup on the screen now, and I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate, but Brad Gazan in goal, Franco Escobar right back, Miles Robinson, LGP at center back, Breck Shea at left back, midfield, Darlington Nagbe, Eric Remedi, Emerson Heineman, Gonzalo Martinez, Pity Martinez, Justin Merrim, and Joseph Martinez up top. So I am assuming from looking at that, Pity will be out wide on the right, Merrim will be out wide on the left, and we'll see who takes the more advanced positions out of Nagbe, Remedi, and Heineman with Joseph up top. Intriguing. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get Mike Conti on the line and get his thoughts on that lineup that was at least shown here in the room we are in here at the stadium yes. and has not been officially tweeted yet, but it's out there. If you're in the building, you can see it, so I don't think we're breaking any major protocols here. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll get Mike Conti on the line. We'll be right back after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here pregame show live from Fifth Third Bank Stadium ahead of the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal. Atlanta United, St. Louis FC. We have the St. Louis lineup officially. A little surprise at goalkeeper in that change. We're waiting on the official Atlanta United lineup. They're working up the broadcast here, and we've seen one that has not been posted as of yet. So Mike Conti's flying blind right now in terms of what they're going to do. We do have it now. We have it officially, Mike.
Wow.
And we had correct information. So your lineup is Brad Gazan in goal wearing the captain's armband. Backline left to right, Breck Shea, Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, Miles Robinson, and Franco Escobar. Central midfield, Eric Remedi, Darlington Nagbe, Emerson Heineman. Left wing, Justin Merrim. Right wing, Pity Martinez. And up top, Joseph Martinez. Thoughts, Mike Conti?
I'm shocked. It's a very, very aggressive lineup. I am especially shocked to see Nagbe in there. I am especially shocked to see is Gressel in fact in there? I couldn't quite hear you clearly. Is Gressel
He
in
is
fact
in the 18, not in the starting lineup.
But Merrim is starting.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, Gressel, I just thought, he's been kicked so much lately. There was just no way you would want him to play a full 90 or 120 tonight. But Nagbe, who just put in such a tremendous amount of work on Sunday, to come back Wednesday now in that heat, I'm just shocked. I'm very surprised. It's an aggressive lineup. I think it tells you how seriously Frank and the club is taking this opportunity. They want to leave nothing to chance. But I wonder what the long-term impact will be going into a really, really tough road game Sunday in Seattle. I mean, clearly they put the priority on getting the result tonight as opposed to getting it on Sunday.
Okay, Mike, question to the floor has to do with Emerson Heineman, and we were discussing how he best could be used tonight. Expectations for the new kid at school tonight from you would be what?
Excited to see him. It sounds like he's a very dynamic player. They didn't get a chance to watch him at Hibbs this year, obviously, but, the very little I know about him is that he's dynamic, that he can fill a couple different roles in the midfield. He can be a 6. He can be an 8. I think more so, I'm just curious to see what the societies are going to look like in the midfield for someone who has not been able to train a whole lot with his new team. The first official full training that he could have gone through was yesterday. So it'll be curious to see what the chemistry is like, if there will be any kind of sloppiness or mistakes or miscommunication. I think the fact that you have Brad in goal and you have Leandro and Miles both starting tonight probably reduces the likelihood that there's going to be some communication issues, because you're going to have some very, very strong communication coming out of the back. So curious to see. I think he's someone who's going to be a big part of the plan going forward for Atlanta United, and hopefully gets off to a good start tonight.
Yeah, according to the lineup graphic, Heineman is your number 10 with Remedi and Nagbe behind him. And on the bench, Brendan Moore is backing up Gazan, Gressel, Ambrose, Lorenowitz, Parkhurst, Pereira, and Vasquez. St. Louis, from what we can tell, Mike, they're going to come in and play very defensive. It's either going to be a 4-5-1 or a 5-4-1. They've got a short bench because they're pretty banged up. How do you think this is going to play out in terms of what Atlanta has to do to break this down?
Probably plays into Atlanta's hands because they can maintain possession and build out of the back. St. Louis will allow them to do it. That might have played a role in making the decision to have Darlington Nagbe play in this game tonight, because he's someone, being such a strong dribbler and an incredibly accurate passer, he's someone you would need in a situation where you have to kind of break down a bunkering team. I think Remedi helps you to some degree with that as well. Real opportunity tonight for Pity Martinez, I think, to kind of get right a little bit. I mean, we've seen him do what we want him to do in the attacking third, and that's provide service and send good balls into the box for scoring opportunities. Unfortunately, Merrim has been able to convert on some of that lately. I think it's a real opportunity for Pity tonight to show off his class. But it's going to be tricky. It's hard to break down a bunkering team, whether you're Atlanta United or whether you're a team, in USL League One playing against a USL Championship team. There's nothing easy about it. It will be imperative for Atlanta United to not give up an early goal. If they do, then St. Louis can really clamp down, and then it makes it almost impossible to try to pull a result.
And at the same time, Mike, you're also looking at the notion of this starting 11 here and then having to fly to the other end of the country on the weekend. When you look at the lineup tonight, it's major priority here, and then you get even more intrigue. There's more Palace intrigue for the weekend for the match in Seattle.
Well, and now, what's your midfield going to look like on Sunday? Lorenowitz, the one that really shocks me is no Lorenowitz tonight because he can't play Sunday. So why not play him tonight? Now, granted, I mean, you do have an extra day of rest. It's not like going Wednesday to Saturday. You're going Wednesday to Sunday, and the team is chartering back from Seattle. So they're doing some things that are going to make it a little more reasonable. I am really, really surprised with the heat and the conditions. And look, you're going to have to play some of the players you're playing tonight again on Sunday. It is a very, very tough ask. It's one thing for Joseph to do it as a striker. I think it's another thing as a midfielder for Darlington Nagbe and Eric Remedi. So, maybe this is the start of a very heavy workload for Emerson Hindman, and tonight is a good opportunity to get comfortable against a USL team. But, this goes completely against my expectation for tonight. And as a result now, John, I really have no idea what they are going to do on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday gets really weird now when you start to look at it. Lorenowitz is maybe the biggest surprise not being in the team because of that red card suspension that's coming up. I'm with you on that. You got to manage the minutes here tonight, and that's tricky because you're going to be dealing with a team that is going to sit back. Your attacking players are going to have a lot of work to do. Your defensive players might not have a whole lot of work to do, except on set pieces. And when you look at St. Louis and you look at what they've done in this cup run, 7 goals in the Open Cup this season, 4 from set pieces. That's a big concern.
Big time. Now, Atlanta United was a lot better on set pieces Sunday than they were last Wednesday in Chicago. And you've got, you said the back line is Shea, Leandro, Miles, and Franco, right? So it's the exact same back line that you had Wednesday night. They were not. That was a group that really struggled against set pieces. It's impossible to expect that you're not going to give one up. I mean, St. Louis will earn set pieces tonight, so you've got to be a lot better. And I think tonight we'll learn if Atlanta United and that group in particular that's going to be out there learned anything from what happened in the first 15 minutes or so against Chicago when they were out there and they gave up 3 goals on set pieces.
And Mike, at the same time you're talking about a St. Louis FC side that really isn't going to have any fear. I mean, they've knocked off 2 MLS sides getting to this point in Chicago and FC Cincinnati. And yes, a lot of folks are sitting there saying FC Cincinnati's an MLS side, yes. But you have a team not intimidated by their surroundings. They know they're the underdog. It's a veteran side. This is it's going to be a group that's going to come in here and do their thing. And, we've talked about it in the early parts of the show. Not intimidated by their surroundings, not going to flinch if something bad happens early.
And also nothing to lose, right? I mean, no one's expecting them to win. They've already had a magical run. I mean, if it comes to an end tonight, they've already beaten 2 MLS teams. That's something they can be very, very proud about. These are the kinds of opponents that really scare you. The opponents that can just go out and throw caution to the wind and if they lose, no big deal. But if they win, it's one of the greatest moments in club history. And they'll be incredibly motivated to get that win tonight. I think, again, this lineup shows that Atlanta United is taking them extremely seriously. So, yes, they have nothing to lose, but I think Atlanta United is showing them a lot of respect with the lineup that they've put together tonight. Now you just got to go out and go play. Conditions, I think, are going to be a massive factor in this match both ways because it is so hot and humid out there. Atlanta United has not really played in that kind of weather. Oh, man, Jason, I mean, I can't think of it all this year, to be honest with you. I mean, it was a little warm in Chicago, not really that bad. It was reasonable in Toronto. It was comfortable. Salt Lake was chilly. New York Red Bulls was perfect. You're in a dome in Vancouver. Kansas City was perfect. I mean, Atlanta United has not had to play in conditions like this all year. I don't know about St. Louis, but I think conditions become a major part of the storyline tonight, especially if you have to play 120 minutes tonight.
Yeah, and you have to think about the possibility of 120 when you dig into it. We'll finish up with you, Mike, with this. We talked on Stoppage Time about, expectations and priorities as you look to the rest of this season. Does this lineup maybe give you a bit of a hint at what the priorities are for Frank DeBoer?
It does to me, and that priority is to win this trophy. And again, it's something we talked about on Stoppage Time. Do not demean U.S. Open Cup as just some piddly domestic trophy. It is not that at all. This is the oldest trophy in American soccer. There are teams all across the league that have banners up in their stadiums, signifying that they have won the U.S. Open Cup. And most importantly, it's your easiest, most direct path right now into the CONCACAF Champions League. Like you said on Stoppage Time today, you're playing a road match Sunday in Seattle. You're not expecting 3 points out of that if you're a fan. Obviously, you want to try and go out and get 3 points, but Seattle is 7-0-2 at home this year. So go all in for tonight. Go all in for Open Cup. Maybe you get fortunate, you play Orlando in the semifinal, and then once you get to the final, who knows? But this lineup shows me, Jason, and again, I'll say I am very shocked by it, but it shows me that this club is taking this U.S. Open Cup opportunity incredibly seriously.
Yeah, I'm with you. This ratchets things up just a little bit for Atlanta United tonight. Ratchets up the pressure a little bit. Got to get a result with this group. Mike, thanks for the time. Wish we were on the call for it, but our friends Poppy Miller and Charlie Davies will take care of us on ESPN+.
Poppy's fantastic. Support Poppy tonight. I wish we could do it too, but I'll look forward to their call.
Yep, and we'll be back with you on Sunday. And, Mike, you'll be with us on SDH on Friday. Thanks, man. Talk to you on Friday.
See you guys. Take care.
We're going to take a quick break, come back, get into your questions. If you have them, throw them at us on Twitter at @SoccerDownHere. We'll be right back after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here pregame show, U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal, Atlanta United and St. Louis FC. I was about to say Five Stripes, and it feels like on Twitter the conversation all day has been who created the term Five Stripes for this team. I don't remember. It's come up, and I don't think anybody can truly remember. I know that we started saying it in the early days of SDH.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it to call it that. If I'll claim anything that I think I put into the lexicon, I'll take 17s because I know that I used that a lot early on. But Five stripes, I know we used it, and I don't know if it came from a comment in an SDH episode, if it came on an Atlanta Soccer Chat episode with our friends over at Dirty South Soccer. I know I started using it. Doug has went back through his archives to try to find it. J. Sam Jones has went back through the archives to try to find it. Doug says the first time he used it was March 14th, 2017 in the win over Minnesota. So that was game 2. I think that's right around the time that it started to get used.
Yeah.
I think, if I remember right, it started to get used by us in the SDH universe and the Dirty South universe around that week.
Yeah.
And I remember when Doug did it and people reacted to it, then it was, okay, now it's just accepted and it's part of the lexicon. So I don't know who can get credit for creating that one. 17s, I think we pushed out there through SDH.
Yeah, and there were a couple of other things, too, that I'm sure that we've pushed out there as a part of...
I think everybody has, though.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody's
the
had their different things that they
and that's
add.
the beautiful part of this whole relationship, is that you have some folks contributing one aspect, other folks contributing other aspects. And it's just been this collective of information gathering and sharing and people giving nicknames and things like that. But that's the beauty of building something from the ground up. If it's a chant, if it's a bless your heart to a player who's got a red and it's being chanted as he's leaving the pitch, those kinds of things. That's the beauty of doing something from an organic standpoint, is that once something happens and it catches, everybody can run with it.
Yeah, I think everybody's had their different elements, and I think we'll continue to get more and more things. So it's kind of funny when these questions come up, because it's like I remember thinking like, oh, okay, like now it's cool to use it from a big picture standpoint, because I don't think we used it on radio until probably after Doug did in print.
Okay.
17s, I think we used on the first radio broadcast. I think we used it on the Seattle broadcast in preseason. I think that's where that one got started, was day one. So craziness. Anyway, let's get back to tonight. Joe Bost says, wow, no Dion, no Carlton, no Larry. This is just weird. WTF will we field in Seattle? Some of these guys, some of the players off the bench.
Yeah.
I think Andrew Carlton would be a possibility for Seattle.
Yes.
It is going to be interesting what Seattle looks like. I wondered if Seattle would be a situation where you saw a lot of rotation.
Yeah.
And I would say after this lineup has been posted, it is.
Yes. Quoting, and I do this as an homage to the dearly departed Artie Johnson, looking at the lineup tonight and heading toward the lineup in Seattle. Very interesting.
I don't remember Ernie Johnson doing that.
Artie.
Oh, Artie Johnson.
Artie
sorry.
Johnson.
Explain.
Laughing. When he had, one of his characters was a soldier who would pop up behind palm fronds, and all he would say is, very interesting.
Okay, if you remember laughing out there listening,
Rowan and
put
Martin's
your hands
laughing,
up.
sir.
Yes.
We have other Twitters.
Yeah, I know. We're going to get to those because I'm confused.
Daniel Price, apparently, who he might have prayed to Poseidon or whomever.
He's got some cloud cover.
Nimbus, I guess. But he's got cloud cover now. He says, this lineup basically says to me the Seattle game does not matter.
I don't know if I'd say that things don't matter, but I think you do have to think about priorities. And I felt like coming in that, one, the Open Cup would be taken more seriously than ever before. And I think Frank DeBoer has shown that consistently with lineups throughout the tournament. Two, I think the Houston game at home, then followed by the D.C. game at home, are your better chances for 3 points than the trip to Seattle. I think Seattle, you'll see a mix. I think you're going to have to see some of these faces, but you'll see a mix, and it'll probably be decided coming out of this. I think what we've learned about Frank DeBoer is that he's a manager who does not come in with a pre-planned idea about squad rotation. He adjusts as needed, and he wants a roster that gives him the competition for those spots as required.
ATO UTD fan number 1, with such a strong 11, I'm definitely hoping for a replay of the Herediano match at KSU so we can get players out early.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get started early. It's like I always say in games like this, you can't let an underdog grow into the game. No. You think of them coming in as a smaller team than Atlanta United, but you don't want them to grow up during the match. You want to bury them early. Herediano, we saw that happen.
Yep.
You need to see that type of thing here so you can coast a bit tonight. You can rest in possession, those sorts of things. Kevin from Charlotte with a good point. He said, lineup choices made based on recent poor performances and or results, ? Get back in good form lineup. Could factor into it. I mean, I think it's a little bit bigger than that in that the Open Cup at this stage is now a tournament that you can realistically see lifting a trophy at the end.
You're one of 8. That's it.
Yeah, you're one of 8. You're 3 games away. It ratchets up in priority after getting past Columbus. That, combined with the trip to Seattle, followed by the home match, I think everything falls into place. And what Kevin says could factor in, but I think that's another kind of byproduct of the situation. You've had these poor results in the last 2. You had the loss in Chicago that was bad. You had the draw against New York, which on paper isn't bad. The way it became a draw is bad. You have an opportunity tonight to advance in the Cup, be at home, field a strong team, and for some of those players, have the rest of the week off until you're back at home next Wednesday. It works out well.
And you get the opportunity, if you're Frank DeBoer, you get to have Emerson Hyndman out there. You get to.
That's a great bonus about tonight.
Yeah. And the idea, and I know that when we were looking at the Hyndman transaction and the window opening up, the point that you and Mike were making is how important could it be for his first match to be this one tonight? And as a result, that's how it's laid out. This is his first match tonight to get integrated into the system.
Yeah, I had this zeroed in from day one because I just did not expect to see a player of his capabilities come in and ride the bench. And you gave up so much to get him. You wanted to get him into the flow quickly. This game is on the calendar. And you're not just throwing him out with a second-team lineup. You're not throwing him out in a USL Championship match. You're throwing him out surrounded by Eric Rametti, Darlington Nagbe, Pitti Martinez, Justin Merrim, Joseph Martinez. That's pretty good to see where he fits.
This is on-the-job training. This isn't just something where you're trotted out there with guys who you may be with occasionally. This is on-the-job training with guys that you'll be out there fairly regularly, and as it just so happens, it's in a situation where it's a game that matters that could get you into a Final Four in a tournament which could get you that much closer to getting back into CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah, I think Hyndman going into the lineup tonight shows you how highly he is valued by the club and what the expectations can be for him. I think they're big. I think he is here to push this team to another level, not just here to be an option.
And I know that a lot of folks are looking at this match tonight, and then you wonder with Hyndman in the lineup, does he come back out on short rest, and is he a part of the equation in Seattle on the weekend, or do you wait for him to get processed through this match, and does he reappear against Houston?
I don't think anything's decided about Seattle, Houston, D.C. yet. I think that's how Frank DeBoer operates. You're going to play this match with the best lineup you can have. You're going to look at how players recover. You're going to look at how this match goes, because if you get an early lead and you're able to coast a little bit, it's a different conversation than if you have to go 120. So Frank DeBoer, I think, has a general idea that this match is a priority. That's it. If guys are ready to go, if you're able to have an easy night and guys are ready to go against Seattle and you feel like you can get Seattle and Houston out of it, cool. If not, then you rotate in Seattle. And I think you're set up to be able to do that.
And I think that, and we've seen this with managers in the European theater, that they look at the here and now. They're not focused on what's going to happen 4 days from now. They're not focused on what's going to happen 7 days from now. Right now, this is what's the most important, and the fact that it has a dual purpose of this is what's going on right now, and it's a tournament match. It's not just league, it's tournament, and it pushes you one step closer. I think that you see, all right, here's the priority. I'm not going to think about the weekend until I get past what's going on right now, and that's the priority.
Yeah, I kind of wondered coming in how the Cup would change in priority, because we saw last couple years Tata Martino didn't really take it all that seriously. It was an opportunity to play young players, and you weren't really thinking about coherent lineup. It was about getting guys match time.
Yeah.
Frank DeBoer, that has not been the case. It has been rotation to a degree, but it is in a coherent fashion with a team that can get you a result. Now, tonight in a quarterfinal, it is first choice with the exception of Heineman coming in, and I think it tells you that they see him as possibly being first choice. Joseph Martinez has went to the first choice hair dye salon.
A little frosty.
Yeah, he's went gray.
Is that gray or is that
chrome?
Okay.
Maybe.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's the magic of the Cup, sir.
It's shiny.
I'm glad Felipe Cardenas used that hashtag, the magic of the Cup.
The magic of the Cup. The Colonel has chimed in. He says, may not have been first, but used 5 stripes before I heard it anywhere else. Hashtag taking credit.
Take it, Colonel, because I don't know who had it. Somebody said it. Like, I can't say that I sat there and thought about it and said, ooh, this is it. 17s was something that we talked about before we used it. 5 stripes, somebody said it, and it's like, oh, let's see if this works. Because I remember the thought at that time was we need something other than just Atlanta and Atlanta United and United. There needs to be something. And 5 stripes became the first one that popped up, and it started to spread, and people grabbed onto it, and there you go. That's how all this stuff goes. Luckily, there wasn't like 5 other things that have disappeared. I mean, I remember very specifically at one point there were some heavy rumors that the Atlanta team, this is before it was announced, this was before the team was announced coming to MLS, when Atlanta was being rumored as an MLS team,
right?
Was that it would be called the Atlanta Talons, like talons of a bird.
With the Phoenix and the whole
playing
bird
off
thing.
of the Falcon,
Got
I think,
it.
probably.
Okay.
Like, that was some reputable folks had that going out there, that was being talked about. I'd love to see if, just like there's a Chicago Rhythm logo out there when they were going to be the Rhythm at one point, and I think finally somebody told Nike, like, hey, stop, don't do that because that's just lame. There's a Chicago Rhythm mocked-up logo out there.
Well,
I wonder if Talons got to that point.
There have been other instances where those kinds of things have kind of slipped through, and they end up in somebody's, they end up in somebody's closet, or they end up in somebody's shadow box.
One day, when we get to write the book, we'll see if that one ends up in it.
You know what? I have in my stack somewhere an AFC champion Jacksonville Jaguars sweatshirt.
Okay, that happened. No, that didn't happen.
No.
That did not happen.
No.
Well, that's different, though. Like, that stuff happens. Like, I'm talking about names that didn't actually happen. If anybangers can find an Atlanta Wallbangers logo, I would be.
There you go.
I would love to see that, because that was a team that was supposed to happen and didn't, because the league they were in never happened. It was bizarre.
That's another 30 for 30.
That might be a 5 for 5, but it'll be a story that we'll tell here.
Not
at
the
some
Wallbangers,
point.
but the league.
The league might be a 10 for 10. I mean, it was that ridiculous. Other bits of news that are out there as we finish up, and if you have any questions, you got maybe 3.5-4 minutes left to get them in. George Campbell, the homegrown signing, it'll take effect next year. I love the signing. Campbell has come on so fast. His development, I think he's still a player with a ton of potential and a lot of learning to do. I'll be curious to see what the rest of this year looks like for him, but Campbell has the tools to be an MLS center back.
And you and I are looking forward to seeing him continue to develop with the twos for the remainder of the season. And it's a point that we made and we've continued to make. When you see a Miles Robinson start with the twos and gradually, and you see the light come on and see something like that happen, and now getting regular reps with Atlanta United and being shunned from all-star game appearances. But to see how it starts with Atlanta United 2 here at Fifth Third, and then just progresses forward. I'm looking forward to seeing how Campbell starts with that progression going forward.
An update from Tukwila, Washington, where the Seattle Sounders train. For the first time in nearly 2 weeks, the Sounders returned to the training field at Starfire, and they're near full strength. Raul Ruidiaz is still away from the club after playing in the Copa America final for Peru. Jovan Jones is not with the club at the moment. Victor Rodriguez is dealing with a nagging injury. Jordan Morris and Christian Roldan were back after the Gold Cup final. So that's looking ahead to the weekend. Rodriguez was training on the side, and nothing else on Jovan Jones as of yet. Oh, here we go. Jones is on his way back, birth of his baby Raul. So he's on his way back. He should be there from Sunday. Brian Schmetzer says, we look forward to having a full deck of cards come Sunday.
St. Louis FC fans in the northeast corner. They are in that block.
125 is what was expected here from St. Louis.
That looks great.
Yeah, that looks legit. There was a complaint on Twitter from the St. Louligans about drums not being allowed. Had a conversation earlier. There's a process to get this stuff into stadiums when you're dealing with larger crowds and when you're dealing with bigger organizations. There's an approval process, and it sounds like somebody dropped the ball on the process, and the drums that they wanted to bring in were not approved because they weren't submitted for approval.
And,
these things happen.
But this is one of 4 matches tonight, U.S. Open Cup. We will be back after the match is over on ESPN+. Poppy Miller, Charlie Davies, Tyler Terrans on the call for those of you who are subscribers to that particular service, and looking forward to seeing how it all plays out here tonight at the Fraction.
Go ahead and say it. You want to.
A little action at the Fraction coming up around the corner at the bottom of the hour, everybody.
You wanted to say it. Your other games tonight, again, LAFC hosting Portland. That's your nightcap. Minnesota and New Mexico United start at 8 o'clock. Orlando and NYCFC start at 7:30. Is that correct?
What?
NYC and Orlando. Is that a 7:30 kick?
Yes.
Or an 8? I believe it's 7:30. Yeah.
7:30.
All right. Lineups are being announced. Go ahead and get to ESPN+. We will be back after the final whistle, whenever that is, for the post-game show. If you have thoughts during the match, tweet them at us. We will be on Twitter a bit during the match, but we'll also get to all of your thoughts and comments and reactions in post-game. So we look forward to that. Thanks for joining us, and we will be back in a little while after Atlanta United and St. Louis. ESPN+ is your spot. Go get it. We'll be back later.